Have you ever wondered how the National Guard really works? In this video, we will break it down. When people hear National Guard, they might picture soldiers helping out during floods, wildfires, or maybe even walking the streets during a state of emergency. But the truth is, the National Guard is a lot more complex, and honestly, pretty fascinating. So let's take a closer look at how it all works. The National Guard is one of the oldest military organizations in the United States, going all the way back to 1636, before the United States even existed. That is because the idea of local citizens stepping up to protect their community has been around for a very long time. Today, the National Guard serves both the federal government and the individual states. That dual role is what makes it so unique, and a little confusing, so let's untangle that. First off, every U.S. state, plus territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the U.S. Virgin Islands, has its own National Guard unit. These units are sort of like a bridge between the civilian world and the military. The people who join are often part-time service members. They might work regular jobs or go to college during the week, and then train with their unit 1 weekend a month plus a couple of weeks each year. That schedule is called 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, and it is the standard commitment for most National Guard soldiers and airmen. But just because they serve part-time does not mean they are not highly trained. National Guard members go through the same basic training and advanced training as active-duty military personnel. They use real equipment, follow military procedures, and are ready to be called up when needed. Now, here is where it gets interesting. The National Guard has a dual mission. That means they can be activated by both the state governor and the President of the United States. When the governor activates them, it is usually for state emergencies. Things like hurricanes, wildfires, floods, snowstorms, even helping manage the aftermath of a pandemic. They might help with evacuations, distribute supplies, or just maintain order during a crisis. But if the president calls them up, it is usually for federal missions, and that means they can be sent anywhere, across the country or even overseas. For example, National Guard units have been deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan, and they have supported missions in places like Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. When they are on federal duty, they basically operate just like active-duty military forces. This dual role is written into law. It is part of something called Title 32 and Title 10 of the U.S. Code. Title 32 covers state missions, where Guard members are still under control of the governor, but paid by the federal government. Title 10 is when the president takes full control and they become part of the national military effort. That legal flexibility is what allows the National Guard to switch between state and federal service depending on what is needed. Now let's talk about the structure. The National Guard has two main parts: the Army National Guard and the Air National Guard. The Army National Guard is the land-based force. They have infantry, artillery, engineers, medics, and more. The Air National Guard handles things like air support, reconnaissance, refueling missions, and disaster response from the sky. Both of these are part of the larger military structure, but they also answer to their state's chain of command when on local missions. And it is not just about natural disasters or wars. The National Guard has also been called in during major civil unrest, such as protests or riots, when local police forces are overwhelmed. They have helped during border security operations, pandemic responses like COVID-19, and even logistics for mass vaccination campaigns. Sometimes they also provide backup at large public events or work alongside law enforcement when extra security is needed. One of the most impressive things about the National Guard is how fast they can move. Because they are spread out across all 50 states, they can mobilize rapidly to respond to a crisis. And they are not just muscle. They bring equipment, trucks, helicopters, medical teams, engineers, and communications gear. That kind of capability is incredibly valuable when something unexpected happens. You might be wondering, how do you join the National Guard? Well, like any military branch, there are requirements. You usually need to be between 17 and 35 years old, pass the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery Test, also known as the ASVAB, meet physical fitness standards, and pass a background check. Once you are in, you go through basic training and job-specific training, just like in the regular Army or Air Force. One of the big appeals of the Guard is that it offers a balance between military service and civilian life. Members can go to college, have full-time careers, and still serve their country and community. Plus, there are benefits like tuition assistance, job training, and healthcare options. For many people, it is a way to serve without going full-time military. But make no mistake, being in the Guard is a real commitment. When a disaster strikes or a mission comes up, you can be called away from your job or family, sometimes with little notice. And deployments, while not as frequent as in active duty, do happen. That is why members of the National Guard have to be flexible, resilient, and ready to act when duty calls. The Guard also plays a critical role in homeland security. In fact, after the 9/11 attacks, the National Guard became more involved in airport security, border patrols, and counterterrorism efforts. Their role has grown and adapted to match the changing needs of the country. What is also cool is that Guard units are often deeply connected to their communities. Unlike active duty military bases that might be far away or isolated, National Guard armories are right in cities and towns. The people serving in them are often locals, your neighbors, classmates, or coworkers. That community connection is part of what makes the Guard special. When they show up in a crisis, people recognize them. That builds trust and helps make the response more effective. And the training is no joke. Guard members do everything from live fire exercises and flight simulations to search and rescue drills and cybersecurity training. The Guard is also part of the U.S. Northern Command and can work with other federal agencies like FEMA, the Department of Homeland Security, and even international partners. So next time you see someone in uniform at a disaster site or during a major public event, it could be a member of the National Guard, stepping up to serve both their state and their country. Now you understand how the National Guard really works. If this helped you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone curious too.